Hello, everybody. Are you ready for a story? So, today I'm going to read with you Golden Goose. Okay, let's read.
Once upon a time, there was a couple with three sons. While the two elder sons were pampered, nobody loved the youngest, who was called a fool. One day, the father asked the eldest son to gather some firewood from the forest. The mother prepared a delicious pancake and a bottle of wine for him. On the way, the eldest son met an old dwarf who asked him for some food. The young man shouted loudly to drive him away. While he was cutting down a tree, the axe slipped from his hand and hurt his arm, and he couldn't carry on firewood home. The next day, the second son went to collect the firewood. The mother prepared a tasty cake and good wine for him too. On the way, he met a hungry old man who asked him for food, but the second son shouted and drove him away. While he was cutting down a tree, the axe slipped from his hand and hurt his leg. He couldn't take any firewood home either. When the youngest son, whom everyone called Fool, saw that his brothers were hurt, he volunteered to get the firewood. This time, the mother prepared a loaf of bread and some stale beer for him. On his way, Fool met an old man who asked him for food. The young man said, "I don't have any good food, but if you don't mind, you're welcome to share what I have." As he took his meal out of his bag, the bread suddenly became a nice piece of cake, and the stale beer became aromatic wine. Both enjoyed the meal near a stream. The old man said, "Since you are a kind young man, I will give you a reward. Cut down the tree, you will find something." Saying this, the old man left. The young man did so and was surprised to find a beautiful goose with bright golden feathers all over. He picked up the goose and began to tread back home. At dusk, he decided to spend the night in a nearby barn. The farmer who owned the barn had three daughters. Each of them wanted one of the goose's golden feathers. So they tiptoed to the barn while the youngest son was sleeping. When the eldest sister tried to pull out a feather from the golden goose, her hands suddenly stuck to the goose's body. When the second daughter tried to help her, her hand also got stuck to her sister's body. And when their younger sister tried to help them, her hand too got stuck. The next day, the young man, whom nobody loved, picked up the golden goose and continued his journey homeward. He took no notice of the three girls still stuck to the goose. On the way, a priest walked past and scolded the girls for following the man, but when he pulled the last girl's hand, his own hand got stuck too. While they were all walking into the village, the sexton saw the priest and called out to him. But when he ran after the priest to pull him away, his hand also got stuck. Meanwhile, Fool led the line through a field where two farmers were tilling the soil. The priest shouted for help. Both the farmers ran to help, but they also got stuck, making the line even longer. All seven then followed Fool into the town. The king of that town had a beautiful but sad daughter who had not laughed even once in her whole life. The king was very worried. He announced that he would marry the princess to any man who would make her laugh. When Fool heard the announcement, he dashed into the palace as soon as the princess saw Fool with the golden goose. And the long line of people behind him, she started giggling when Fool began laughing with the princess. The line was broken. Fool had won the right to marry the princess, but since he was just a poor woodcutter, the king was displeased and came up with a trick. Fool was told to find somebody who could drink all the wine in the wine cellar. In one day, Fool rushed into the forest to ask the old man for help. The old man agreed immediately. He drank all the wine present in 100 big vats. Then Fool told the king to keep his promise. But instead, the king said, "I will keep my promise if you can find someone who could eat all the bread in a pile as high as mountain in a single day." Fool returned to old man for help. The old man said, "All the bread in the place is still not enough to fill my stomach." Delighted, Fool took him to the bakery house. The old man ate up all the bread in a pile that was as high as mountain in the courtyard. Again, Fool asked the king to keep his promise, but instead the king said, "You may certainly marry my daughter if you can find a ship that can move on land and also sail in the sea." Fool went to the old man once again, and the old man agreed to help him.
The old man made a ship with sails to sail in the sea and fastened the wheels to move on the land. Finally, the king realized how able Fool was soon. Fool was married to the princess and became the new king of the town. I hope you enjoyed this story. Thank you, everyone.